And good afternoon. Thank you for tuning in. News Talk 95.3, Michiana's news channel. I'm your host, Casey Hendrickson. Joining us on the line right now is Congressman Jim Banks from Indiana. Congressman, how you doing today?
Hey, Casey, good to be with you. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, no problem. Glad to actually have you on the radio show. We did link up a little bit in Washington, D.C. when you were chatting with Pat Miller when we were at Hold Their Feet to the Fire. That was fun, and we talked a little bit about our congressman now, Rudy Yakum, because you and Rudy actually go back a little ways, don't you?
Yeah, we do. We used to work for the same commercial real estate company, the Bradley Company out of South Bend. Bought a real estate company in Fort Wayne and worked for them for a few years. Got to know Rudy really well. Really proud of him. He's off to a great start. He's going to serve the 2nd District very well, and he's going to be a leader. He's a leader in everything that he does. He's going to be a great leader in the Congress and for our country. Proud to have him as a part of the House Republican Conference and serve alongside him over the next 2 years.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident about that, too. By the way, congratulations, because you were just appointed to the House Select Committee on the strategic competition between the U.S. and the Chinese Communist Party. So congratulations on that. But also, can you do me a favor, just kind of explain to the audience what that committee actually does and what its stated purpose is?
Well, I think it'll be the most important thing the Congress does over the next couple of years. The Chinese Communist Party is the biggest national security threat to the United States of America and to our American way of life. And for the first time, Congress has taken a real look at what we can do about it. You've seen under the Trump administration, you saw the first president in American history say that China is a threat to America. Now we have a President, Joe Biden, who doesn't just turn a blind eye to the Chinese. He's turned over the keys to America, to China, and I'm talking about in very corrupt ways. So the Congress is going to have to step up and do what the Biden administration won't. And we've formed this select committee, and our mission, our job over the next 2 years is to look at everything from our military to our economy to the supply chain, businesses that do business in China or Chinese Communist Party controlled businesses, look at ways that we can put America back on top and put America in a better position to hold China accountable for stealing our jobs, what they did to give us COVID, and develop a whole of government approach to compete with China. So I think it'll be the most important thing that we do this Congress, and I'm proud to be a part of it.
Yeah, and I think particularly in our neck of the woods here, Congressman, the Chinese ownership of farmland is very, very concerning to people in this area. So I'll be interested to maybe link up with you in the future after the committee's been running for some time and actually get your thoughts on that as well. Did you see the Project Veritas exclusive that broke last night? I don't know if you have an opportunity to actually watch that yet, but you mentioned COVID and China, but you actually got an executive for Pfizer basically saying that Pfizer is developing ways to mutate COVID in the lab, and they've discussed actively promoting those mutations in order to get ahead of vaccines, which seems to be to most people a gain of function. And a lot of people are very concerned about this. And if you've had an opportunity to see it, I was interested in what your thoughts were.
I haven't been able to watch it. I've seen another very important revelation from Project Veritas and what they're exposing to the American people and the type of research that, by the way, you and I and the American taxpayers paid for. Yeah. And we got to put an end to that. So the Select Committee on China, we're going to focus on the economic and military threats of China. There's also a new Select Committee I'm not a part of on the origins of the coronavirus and what we do about it. And they'll be looking at how we cut off the type of funding that led to gain-of-function research that likely, I remember the first time, Casey, April of 2020, I talked early on. It was early on in the pandemic. I remember talking about the likelihood that the origins of the coronavirus were in a lab in Wuhan, China, and the very liberal left-wing editorial page of the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette, where I come from, published an editorial and said I was trafficking in conspiracy theories and spreading irresponsible information, being irresponsible and spreading information like that. And now, fast forward to where we are today. Mike Pompeo, the former Secretary of State, just released his book last week, and confirms once again that it's not just a possibility. It's very likely, the most likely scenarios that's exactly where it did come from. So Project Veritas is on something here, and Congress needs to listen to it, incorporate it in our questioning of not just Dr. Fauci and some of the others that were involved in funding that research, but also some of the corporate players in America who were involved in all this mess as well.
Yeah, I've always said the conspiracy theory always was that this came out of the wet market, and my audience knows that in December of 2019, I was saying don't be surprised this comes out of that lab in Wuhan, because there's been so many problems with it before, and the international inspections have not been kind to it even before the leak. So it's nice to see that the truth is finally coming out, but unfortunately, it's a little too late. But with that, I mean, obviously you've been a great representative. I mean, you have big fans here in Michiana. You're technically not our district. But there's a lot of people very, very happy that you have decided to announce that you're going to run for Senate and take over Senator Braun's vacant seat as he runs for the governorship of the state of Indiana. What led to that decision? You've been thinking about that for a while. Did you come to it on your own? Were you approached for it? How did that go down?
Yeah, not an easy decision for my wife and I. We have 3 daughters who are 13, 11, and 9 years old. They serve with me. We believe public service is a calling for our family, and we're proud to do it. And we come from what some might call a safe red seat in Northeast Indiana, with Fort Wayne being the anchor right next door to Michiana. So it wasn't an easy decision. Mike Braun announced he's running for governor, opens up the Senate seat. I just feel like Indiana is a conservative state, and Indiana deserves a conservative senator to go to Washington and fight for our conservative Hoosier family values. And that's what I've been doing in the House, but the Senate just provides an opportunity to fight for those values in a bigger way. And I think the 3 biggest threats to America, we've already talked about one of them, is China, the Chinese Communist Party. The Chinese military has a bigger Navy than our Navy. They have emerging and sophisticated technologies that we don't have, and we got to do more to prepare for not just the competition, but what can America do to compete with China, remain on top, and not let China take over America as the world power? So that's one of the biggest threats. I think the national debt, $32 trillion, and that you saw some Republicans go along to get along and help pass a $1.7 trillion omnibus bill. We got to stop the madness, stop the spending, cut wasteful spending. We've hit the debt limit. We're about to have a debt limit fight in the Congress, and it's long past time of going along to get along. We got to cut spending and address the fiscal situation in our country. Then the third biggest threat that I believe is wokeism in our country. We see it in the schools, teaching critical race theory, anti-Americanism. You see some of this garbage being pushed on our troops. Wokeness is weakness, and it is a cancer that's going to kill this country from inside out if we don't do something about it. So we got to uproot it, and we got to raise up a new generation of patriotic Americans that understand that America is the greatest country in the history of the world, instead of teaching them the opposite. And those are the 3 biggest threats to our country, and why I'm running for the Senate to do something about it.
Well, I mean, I was excited about it. I was pretty thrilled. Obviously, it's still early. I know that other people are going to be announcing. I haven't seen a name personally that I would put above yours, Congressman. I think at this point in time, you have my full support. I think you're the right person for the Senate. I've always enjoyed your career in the House. Looking forward, I mean, you mentioned, obviously, China's, again, huge threat to the United States. But I got to tell you, I'm looking at everything that's happening in Ukraine. As a veteran myself, I'm seeing patterns that I don't like, that I've seen throughout history. And I'm very concerned about the tank situation, and I'm concerned at what that could lead to with China somehow, some way, getting their hands on this stuff. And there was a report that came out this week, I'm sure that you're aware of it, that Russia is now negotiating with the Taliban for American equipment that was left behind in Afghanistan. And these are all things that are potential risks to our national security. And I'm all for the Ukrainians beating the Russians, but I'm very concerned about the way that we're going about doing it.
Yeah, we have the weakest commander-in-chief we've ever had in American history sitting in the White House today, and weakness invites the aggression of our adversaries. So it's not a coincidence that for 4 years when Donald Trump was in office, Russia didn't invade Ukraine, that China didn't go after Taiwan. Iran, they stopped a lot of their activities because they were afraid of Donald Trump. And North Korea stopped testing their intercontinental ballistic missiles because Trump threatened them, and they feared Trump. Now we have the weakest commander-in-chief who they're not afraid of, and that weakness projected by America on the world stage has turned the world upside down and made it a much more dangerous place. So that I go back and I think about, when Ronald Reagan talked about peace through strength, he wasn't just talking about having the biggest, mightiest, strongest military. He was also talking about having a strong America. And right now we have an America in decline. We have weak leadership, and that's why you see these things happening. So we have to. This is why we talk about the America First policies of Donald Trump. We got to go back to those policies that project American strength, that make America strong, focus on our interests first. And if we do that, then I think the rest of the world is a lot better off for it too.
So, Congressman, as the audience is listening to this and we end the interview, is there anything that you wanted, any call to action that you have for anybody out there in the audience to do right now that would help you guys and your mission in Congress right now, whether it's, the debt ceiling fight or anything else? Is there a call to action that you want the audience to partake in?
Well, I mean, you've got a great member of Congress in Rudy Yackham, but I'd say when it comes to all of our representatives, both of our senators in the state, we can't back down. We have a big mess on our hands. We have the debt limit issue, which is an opportunity to force Democrats to come to the table and negotiate with Republicans to do something about our fiscal health. So demand that your representatives and your senators push back on the radical left-wing policies of the Democrats and the president to restore this country, get America back on top. So that's what I'm fighting for. You can learn more about my campaign for Senate at banksforsenate.com. Find me on Twitter and Facebook, Instagram, and weigh in. Give me your feedback. I appreciate it very much.
Indiana's 3rd District Representative Jim Banks, and, of course, Republican candidate for Indiana's next senator. Thank you very much, Congressman. We do appreciate your time this afternoon.
Have a good day.
You too. All right, we got more coming up. News Talk 95.3, Michiana's News Channel.
Casey Hendrickson.